The mother of a 23-year-old man who died after using synthetic drugs says they begged and begged to get him onto a drug rehabilitation program and were repeatedly told there weren't enough beds. Memphis Pittman died just over a fortnight ago, one of 20 deaths associated with synthetic drugs in the past 6 months. Already in the mental health system for treatment for schizophrenia, his mother said they had access to doctors who cared and wanted to help, but Memphis needed residential care and no beds were available. The country's 20 DHBs contract a total of 480 beds for drug and alcohol treatment nationwide. But in the most recent financial year, 50,000 people were seen by alcohol and drug services. So that's a ratio of 1 bed for every 104 people seeking help or referred for help by police, the courts and social agencies. Memphis and his family asked for 8 months and he made it to the top of the waiting list in the week before he died. His mother is now demanding the new government invest more in drug and alcohol care so lives can be changed and indeed saved. Natasha Sadler told me about her much-loved, music-loving son.
Prior to his mental illness, Memphis had the world in his hand. He was a brilliant, articulate young man. Those who knew him would testify to his amazing ability to sing. People gravitated towards him. He had just this way about him, soft, humble. He really was an amazing young man. If you speak to anybody about him, they'll tell you how wonderfully soft-hearted he was. Great big laugh. But his mental illness took a toll on the last 4 years of his life.
And he was formally diagnosed with schizophrenia. Yes,
he had to have a slow-release injection 3 weekly of paliperidone, which is an antipsychotic drug.
Right, so the way that works is to forgive this awful shorthand, but it just quietens the voices.
It quietens the voices in his head. So for the past 3 years, whilst I've been living in this home, part of our day-to-day routine was helping to keep our boy well and alive. The voices were so bad, they would tell him he was nothing, he was worthless. So all of the beautiful talent that we'd seen come out of our son up until that time became diminished, and a new Memphis sprung forth from his illness.
And the new Memphis tried synthetics.
The new Memphis used synthetics to shut the voices off. He often told the doctors and his nurse, who was amazing, and his support team, who were absolutely stunning. He told them that the medicine didn't work. It would dim the voices for a period, and from an external perspective I could see the dimming because his behaviours changed. However, around about the 3rd week his behavioural patterns would change. He'd become more easily agitated, he'd yell at the voices, he'd swear at the voices, and we just became accustomed to that pattern, and we knew, okay, it's nearly injection time. He used synthetics. He told me, he told the doctors, he told his grandfather. That was the only thing that would shut the voices off. It switches everything off. Ultimately, it switched off internal organs for my son, and he died. You know, his heart stopped beating, and he became increasingly addicted. It's such an addictive drug.
And everyone was aware.
Everyone was aware.
And you talked to him about it? He talked to you about it,
didn't he? We talked openly about it. He was a very honest kid.
And you desperately tried to get him into some form of rehab, right?
Yes, we did. So he was on the waiting list for 8 months. On the week he died, he was at the top of the waiting list. It was too long. I continuously got people telling me there's just no beds, there aren't any beds.
So he was a formally diagnosed schizophrenic, receiving treatment for a schizophrenic.
Yes.
He and you and everyone were totally open about his addiction to synthetics. Yes. And he was on a waiting list for 8 months. And at the end of the 8 months, he died.
Yes. It's not good enough.
It's about resources, isn't it?
It is about resources. I did everything I could in my power as a single mum who worked my butt off to put a roof over my kids' heads and to put food in their bellies. I did everything I could. There are insurmountable amount of meetings I attended with counsellors, with nurses, with doctors, with inpatient psychologists about getting my son help, and the only response I got was, there aren't enough beds. That's not good enough. What it means is we just need money put there. Stop building prisons. Stop building prisons. Build places where you can get our people well. I'd spoken to his medical team. I said, if you don't admit my son, he's going to die. 6 weeks ago, 2 of his friends died using synthetics. 6 weeks ago. At that time, I begged for him to be admitted into the hospital because I knew he would keep using as a way to block out and deal with the death of his friends.
And his schizophrenia.
And mostly his schizophrenia. But, 2 of his friends died using synthetics. And I said, please admit him. We need some help. And he was asking too. He was at the meeting. He's saying, I can't stop. It's got me by the throat. The people selling the stuff know it's got us by the throat too, and they don't care, they just want the money. And he said, I need help. And what was the reply to both he and I? There aren't any beds. That's not good enough. Make some beds, find some beds. My son died. That's the ultimate cost to pay. Will you listen now? Will they listen now?
Natasha Sadler.